Senator Ferdinand.
Thank you, Madam President. I greet our fellow senators and join you in extending condolences to the families of those loved ones who have passed on, particularly our former minister in the Ministry of Education and Culture, as well as the sister of the Roman Catholic Church. Since we are just about ending the month of October with the Creole fever, the Creole festivities having just been held over the weekend, I believe that it is fair to say that most, if not all of our St. Lucian folk did in some way celebrate and show some, have some fun and enjoy the Creole festive weekend. And if I can just, you can allow me leave to just divulge in a little bit of Creole, to say, moi, t'es bien content, nous tous amusés comme nous, et puis nous célébrer à Creole, fête Creole, journée Creole, week-end passé, et bien finissement 8 semaines passées. Et puis, dans toutes ces communes-là, je dis aussi, en commune Blanchard, Desruisseaux, Tirocher, Lacoville, Diga, Chic, et puis Choiseil, Gozilé, et puis Vieux-Fort. Madam President, it is always refreshing to hear that other cultures, as the Minister did mention, appreciate and have quite a lot of regard for what is truly St. Lucian and what we celebrate. To the substantive motion, Madam President, the resolution sought to make an amendment to specific schedules, and if I can just refer to A in the case of Schedule 1, under Item 1 to include the definition of the words educational supplies in the resolution, and Section A, Roman numeral 2, under Item 2 to include the supply of the service of printing and educational supplies at a zero-rated supply of service. Very significant, Madam President. It also be considered the schedule of imports of personal items and barrels and so on. Madam President, this morning I just want to confine my short presentation to one specific area of the resolution before us. I am doing so because I believe that in all of the discussion that we have had on this amendment, that I am very disappointed in the treatment that has been given to an area of this amendment or an area of this resolution that I believe is extremely important to a specific area, a specific category of persons in this country. We have heard of all types of discussions. Yes, in the last sitting in the lower house, we heard the discussion. Even this morning, there's been quite a lot of discussion on, especially on the barrels, and I have no difficulty with that. I believe that the barrels and what should be in it and what should not be in it is okay. I believe it's welcome, and whatever the government can do, which of course the Labour Party government did embark on, and whatever any subsequent government can do to allow St. Lucians to benefit from the remittances from their relatives abroad and any other benefit will obviously be something I welcome. But I am very disappointed, Madam President, that whereas the resolution makes specific reference to inclusion of educational supplies, printing material and so on, we have had very little discussion on that specific issue. Not even from the minister responsible for education. I was happy to hear that the leader of government business this morning allude to it, but basically in mentioning it. Madam President, I believe that when we as a government, as a people, seek to provide relief in any form, that we must always remember those who need it most. And when we have an amendment that includes educational supplies, not even being given any treatment, I believe that we have to become very concerned and ask ourselves, what is really our priority? What is our focus? In a situation where we're discussing educational supplies, we did not even go into a discussion about what types of educational supplies should we also consider. I heard my colleague, Senator Mangal, mention a couple of things that we can consider. But did anybody give thought to what other educational supplies that we should probably consider in subsequent amendments? For example, can we start thinking about including school books, exemptions on school books? Because educational supplies include school books. We did have printing material and so on. And I know it's going to be a very difficult decision for any government to make, considering the revenue that is generated from school books. But I'm just saying, what is the level of discussion that is being engaged, that we are engaging in, on that specific area? Madam President, I really think that the treatment given to educational supplies in this specific resolution has been sort of en passant, and I'm very disappointed in that. I believe that consideration can be given, as the previous government did, in providing the $500 bursaries to every student who succeeded the common entrance exam. That was a gesture of assistance being offered. And so if the step had been taken to alleviate the situation for parents who have children who have succeeded the exam and are ready to go to secondary school, why wasn't there more discussion on that specific aspect of the resolution? If you follow the discussion, Madam President, so far, almost everyone was, almost all the discussion, particularly from the members who presented it from the government side, was focused on the barrels. And I am not saying that it's not important, but it was only one of the three areas that the resolution spoke to. And I believe at this point we need to be careful that when we engage in debate and discussion in this Honorable House on matters that impact our population, that we begin to show a little more consideration for our young people. Our young people are beginning to speak out in many ways on matters that affect us in the country. And when we come to this Honorable House to pass legislation, amend legislation, and make any pronouncements that is in their best interest, we need to give it the kind of treatment that it deserves. Yes, they benefit from the barrels too, because when barrels come in, the children in the household do benefit. But I think the fact that the resolution actually pointed out specific clauses and areas that refer to educational supplies, I really believe that it should have gotten some treatment, particularly since the minister responsible for education sits among the members of the lower house. And so, Madam President, I wanted to make that observation and to say that I believe that our legislators, our lawmakers, our members of government who are responsible must take those areas a little more seriously. Now, I don't want to get involved too much in the previous discussions, but just two observations I've made. Madam President, the $10 million that was made reference to a while ago when the issue of what should be included in the barrel was mentioned by my colleague, we have no issue with any amount of benefits that are going to come for improving the situation for our young people. But all I will say on that is that it appears to me that what less than $1 million could have done is not being bettered or improved with even $10 million. $1 million was done, there was mold in the school. I will never say that there wasn't. The school that I was principal of, we had issues there as well. We are boasting about $10 million being put into school infrastructure. We still have mold. So maybe it's not about the amount we put. It's probably about how it's been dealt with, how it's been administered. So, Madam President, I just want to highlight the specific point this morning that I believe in all the discussion. We mentioned gas prices, we mentioned horse racing, we mentioned hospitals, we mentioned healthcare. All of those things were part of the discussion. I even heard other things that I don't Okay, I think it's okay now. Yes. So, Madam President, I think it was the member for Castries North who attempted to give some treatment to the area that I refer to. So it is rather unfortunate that up to this point...
Senator, I remind you, or I remind this House, that we are not here to admonish the House below. We are here to make submissions in this chamber about the debate at hand. If that is the basis of your submission, I will ask you to stop and go back to what is to be discussed, which is the resolution. As I said before, I have no problem in reference, but this sounds like a continuous admonishment of what happened in the House below.
Sure how it was interpreted, but I'm saying, even this morning, let's leave the House. Madam President, even the mic is... Anyway, as I was saying, Madam President, let's leave the lower house issue alone. I want to state categorically in this chamber that even this morning we have had 3 presentations on this issue. I am not going to distinguish government or opposition. I am just saying that as a Senate, in this House, as people responsible for legislating and putting in legislature in this country, as leaders, we ought to show a little more regard, perhaps a lot more regard for matters that impact our children and young people. I do not think that we have given sufficient treatment to these 2 areas of this resolution that specifically impact students and persons or stakeholders of education. And I think this is the substantive issue that I have with this resolution. I think I stand in support of it, Madam President. I think it is a good move by any government. I stand in support of the resolution. But I'm saying that this is one issue that I think we need to address. And I'm hoping that in subsequent resolutions of that type, that all of us make the effort to ensure that we give it the type of treatment that it deserves on behalf of our children and the future of our country. I thank you, Madam President.